Well, in my last lecture, I had discussed, the achievement of humans in writing history till 19th century, and I had, we had characterized 19th century as cult of facts. Now, the question arises, and the question arises that are the facts so autonomous that they can tell you something about history until unless there is an order in it, there is some selection of the facts involved in it. Therefore, when we are writing history, we have to interpret the facts. That's why today's topic is writing history and interpretation. So, these are the two components we will have to take care of. So, and when we say that we are trying to look at facts critically, by that I mean that there are many things which has to be taken into consideration before jumping upon any rash conclusion. So first we will decide in writing history what are the issues or what is the issue on which we want to write, why you want to write. So there should be some expectation of historical narrative. Individual historical facts are related to each other in a coherent exposition. If the coherence is not there, it is incoherent, then this will sound like a cacophony. It won't be, gradual, incremental history. It will just, gathering of some lump sum of facts here, some from there, and then making a mix of it, which will not be, good in historiography. So now the question arises, can we write history like we do in sciences? Are the historical facts or history writing, can we say that it is predetermined? Somebody, some facts have already decided that this is how we will have to write history. Like in science, in science we don't do that. So what happens is that it is very nothing is very obvious and nothing is predetermined. So you have to do the exercise of tracing the facts in their proper context in which you are going to write history. Now here I would pause for a new poser. What I would like to say is that many people say that we are writing very scientific history. We are writing very scientific history. Can history be so scientific? Can history be like natural sciences? This reminds me of Richard P. Feynman's book, Six Pieces. There he is writing the relationship between physics and different sciences, branches of sciences. And in that, he is also telling us about, what is the relationship between physics and psychology. We can bring that question into history. So in psychology, he says that, psychology basically deals with human mind. And when you are dealing with an age when witch hunting was very common, say in the Middle Ages, so the person who is supposed to be suffering from various spirits, they will go to the witch doctor dealing with the witches. So witch doctor, now the witch doctor will decide what kind of treatment should be given. It could be psychological, it could be medicinal, it could be anything. But the question arises, should we consider his subject as science or his, whatever knowledge he has as science? No. Science is different from psychology and psychology is different from science. Similarly, in history, history cannot behave like, and we should not expect history to be like exact sciences. We can have our, methods, scientific methods in order to get facts, get the results. Now, in sciences, they go to the labs. then they do some kind of a controlled experimentation in laboratories. This laboratory could be in any part of the country or any part of the globe. You will have to have fixed ratio of gases to be mixed in order to, or whatever material you want, they will be, the quantity will be predetermined. Otherwise, there would be explosion. You can't mix with every gas with any other gas. There is also, the empirical knowledge is there that no, you can't mix them too. So, in exact sciences, experiments are made in laboratories. And another thing which is very remarkable about science is that you can repeat this experiment. In history, we cannot repeat. That is not allowed. So, historians from identical facts would be forming divergent views, different views, on the basis of, identical information. But there, on the basis of identical combination of gases, you get one particular kind of result. Therefore, the duty of the historian is to, or the result would be that facts are same, but opinions would be different. So, unlike scientists, historians' task is a bit complex. She or he deals with events which had occurred in long time past, in distant past, in hoary past, very remote past, not immediately before us. So, we are dealing with something with, to which we were not eyewitness. That is the first condition of history writing. Therefore, the historian has no means to verify the reports. If reports on the basis of organizing, as I said, repeat experiment, you can't do that in science, history. Another limitation is for historian is that we have very heavy dependence on reports of the observers whose narration is susceptible to, whenever those reports were composed, to their personal biases, rendering historical evidence in the language of science contaminated. Because we are reading report which was created by somebody else. Say for example, the authors of medieval period, when they are writing, take for example Ziauddin Barni, if he is reporting about a particular class, then his own bias is possibly involved there. And he makes it very clear that, when he says that I am writing this book for the nobility, for the rulers and princes of future, so that they can take ibrat from this, take lessons from this. So, their personal biases are there. Now, how to separate the two in order to get, closer to the truth? So, this problem of quote unquote contamination is very complex in humanities, especially history. Therefore, it is expected of a historian that he would purge all those supposed contaminations from his report, and then try to arrive at certain truth or fact. And in social sciences or in humanities, there is no cut and dried method. There are no cut and dried rules like scientists have. Their premises and hypothesis of geometry, wherever you go, triangle will always have three angular lines. You can't say that there is a square and you will call it triangle. Nobody will accept it. So, their method and their concepts are very fixed. Historians cannot isolate the material with which he is writing history like a scientist. In other words, we cannot be so clinical in our approach. Therefore, I give you the example of H2O. If you maintain this ratio of the gases, it will all result in water. whether you make this experiment in Delhi, Aligarh, or in some Himalayan tract, or on the Alps, the result will be the same. The ratio is identical, but and the result will be similar. So the problem for historian is that no single event takes place, say, in isolation. They are always enormously, there is a welter of interconnections, there all, there is welter of interconnections among facts. They are interrelated. So you have to separate them in order to achieve a narration where you can make some logical interpretation of the facts. That we can't isolate events or treat all of them simultaneously. There are many events which have taken place. You can't deal with all of them simultaneously, even if they have happened in 1 year or 10 years or one time frame. So that is why first we, as a historian, we will have to select events out of a large mass of interconnected facts or interconnections of events. So, in order to obtain a logical study. So, in other words, you can say that all historical evidence is not, only contaminated, it is infinitely selective, and treating such selective evidence, the historians' own subjective power are called upon to play an important and almost decisive part. Why I am saying this? Because the erudition of the historian is involved. His own perception is involved in selecting facts. So the central question in the debate about history and science is that whether mankind should be studied in the same way as the other natural phenomena, for example, any other branches of science, or is there a methodological unity of all forms of disciplined inquiry into human and natural order? So next question would be that does history imply sense or the sense procedure as the natural sciences? In the natural sciences, you are least bothered about sense procedure. Similarly, should a historian or the readers of historians' work, should they judge the work of the history or historians as on the basis of scientific standards? 2 plus 2 will make 4, but this doesn't happen in history. So the other question would be that how can we do that? How to achieve this, because the historical knowledge is valid only insofar as it conforms to scientific method. And if you remember, if you refer to Karl Popper's works, he says that even in science there is no fixed theory. Their perception of even the natural world keeps on changing. We can see that the scientists of our ancient past, Greek scientists or Indian scientists, they were still thinking that it is the earth around which sun is rotating. That was scientific at that particular period of time. But later on, with Aryabhat, first it was Aryabhat, and then we have Galileo and others who discovered that look here, it is not, it is just the opposite. So it was the perception of a particular kind of thing. It had theological bias also, but they were claiming that this was the level of science at that time. Subsequently, the entire perception changes. In the beginning, they were apprehensive. Should they speak about it or not? They might be, punished for that, telling the truth. So their truth, truth of the 16th century about science was quite different from the truth or science of the say 5th, 4th century BC, or say even 5th century AD. So with the passage of time, as I was saying yesterday in my last lecture, with the passage of time, every subject has a history of changing in perception or changes in perception. So therefore, in science or in scientific knowledge, there is always a meticulous observation of reality. Meticulous observation of reality, where the scientist is not involved in understanding the gases. He knows that these are the gases. So he is trying to look at material objects as the other. So this othering of the fact is not possible in history. That is not possible. So in science, you have disinterested, then passive observer, and the outcome of repeated observation of the same phenomenon would give you certain inkling of how the natural or the nature behaves. That they call, this is the law. Like Newton, he said there are 3 laws we know as Newtonian laws. I won't go into those details. They have also been put to some challenge. So they have, they have certain known facts, and they can explain them with regularity, which was observed. But unlike that, in history writing, we have different, approaches. We have, our perception of history has kept on changing, evolving, I would say, learning and unlearning of the processes. And ultimately, we have, after told us about inductive method and deductive methods, we started, revisiting our facts with the development of a particular kind of a particular notion of writing history. So scientist would approach his subject without preoccupations, without moral involvement. But these two components, preoccupations and moral content involvement, they are essential, factors in writing history. We were discussing the role of positivism. So science made immense strides in both pure and applied works. As a result, it enjoyed unrivaled prestige among among the people of 19th century. Everybody who would say that, look here, he is a scientist, he would command respect. Why? For his discoveries or findings. So they were essentially doing, what they were doing was, they were unlocking the secrets of the natural world. They were unlocking. We are still on, our scientists are still doing that. Then, can we apply the same method and procedure to understand society and culture, which is largely, made of human beings? Or in other words, we can say that, can we treat the human beings as those, components of, like those of sciences? They are not static, they are dynamic. So for science, it is all right. Positivism became the, bedrock of philosophy of knowledge of the scientists at that time, which meant that it is the 4 or 5 things I would like to say here. That first, the historian has to accumulate factual knowledge about the past, facts about the past. Second, he will be concerned with his, what I was telling you the other day was, verifiable and ascertainable facts by applying critical method to the primary source of information, be it inscription, be it archaeological finds, be it, text. So we will have to approach it critically. If they say that, this king was a very benevolent king, then we will have to check how benevolent he was. Did he discriminate? Did he not go to the wars? How he was treating the people in large? All those things will apply, we'll have to consider those factors. Therefore, those facts, when once we have, extracted them, they will determine how the past should be, explained or interpreted, what kind of past we had. So, in this process, as I said, that it's a very complex thing. It is not like science, in the sense that it will be guided by beliefs and values of the historians, which should be, when we are trying to write history, they should be relegated to the background. As I often say that that is the guiding principle, that should be the guiding principle of history. We are essentially very religious people, but if something, when you are reading history or trying to interpret history, Ignaz Goldziher said that, when I sit down to do history, I shut my religion out. Shut the door and keep the religion out. Meaning thereby that you will have to do this exercise very consciously, as is being revealed by the facts which you have collected by your critical, approach. Therefore, the sole concern of the historian is with the facts and the generalization which a fact or number of facts, basket of facts, family of facts would lead you to. Then you can think about it. Augustus Comte, the most influential positivist philosopher of the 19th century, he believed that historians would in due course uncover the laws of historical development. Now, this is a very significant statement. He says that, historians in due course would uncover the laws of historical development. I have put them, within quotes, laws of historical development. So, the question arises, can we have some laws? Now, the positivist, set of historians, they were thinking that like science, we would also discover certain laws. And not only that, when Marx is writing Capital, he is telling us that there are certain laws, certain economic laws of motion. He is giving a very tantalizing concept that there can be certain laws, like, that's why we call it economic determinism. But can or was or did economy of different countries, of different people, of the same period lead to evolution of same set of polities, same set of social systems, same set of developments? No. The European developments were quite different from Indian. Indians were quite different from Chinese development. So, we can say that we can have some certain laws of historical development, but this is problematic. Here I would stop, and rest of the things we will discuss in the next class.